What up, folks? Once again, it's your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. It looks like Lyft and Uber are starting to feel the pinch, and some of the incentives and bonuses are starting to come back in some markets. Now, I made a video not long ago titled All Money Ain't Good Money, and I'll link that into the description. But this is another video along those lines because here is what they're offering in my market for this week. Now, they're offering if you do 16 rides, at the end of that 16 rides, they'll give you an additional $16 for finishing those rides. And then if you do an additional 5 rides after that, they'll give you another $10. And if you do another 5 rides after that, they'll give you an additional $15. Now, I've made it clear that I don't believe you should ever drive for base fare. There should always be promotions, benefits, or some form of additional incentives, such as what I'm talking about here, before you even think about turning the key and going out there and taking rides. Now, being candid, I have a full-time job, so I only drive for Uber or Lyft part-time when they are offering incentives. But at the same time, this is the type of incentives that I refer to as all money ain't good money. Now, when you look at what they're offering, let's say you do and meet every incentive being presented here. You do your 16 rides, you're going to get 16 bucks. You do your 5 rides, you're going to get $10. And then you do your second set of 5 rides for an additional $15. All of those incentives equals $41. So you'll end up doing 26 rides, and they'll give you an additional $41 on top of whatever you earn for those 26 rides. Well, $41 divided by 26 rides comes out to them giving you an additional $1.58 per ride. All money ain't good money. That's what I told you before. This is another example of all money not being good money. $1.58 per ride when a lot of rides are barely $5 or more. As I said before in my videos, in my market, the average customer that gets in the vehicle, the average passenger, they're traveling between 1 and 5 miles. And in my market, I believe the base fare is 72 cents per mile. So if a person is traveling 5 miles, 5 times 72 cents, that's less than $4 you're going to get for that trip. So if they add on $1.58, okay, now you're talking $5.60. Still not shit. Because you still got to factor in how far did you go and get that person? How long were you waiting to get that trip to begin with? And you start subtracting that from maintenance, fuel, accelerated oil changes, extra insurance for hauling around ride sharing folks and things like that. It's just not worth it. You're going to have a bunch of $4 and $5 trips all day long until you meet the 26 trips they're offering. Once you meet the 26 trips, then your pay goes back down to base fare, which is even lower. But this is the stuff I'm talking about, folks. Do not turn the key and start taking trips at these low rates. Now, the problem is, and I really feel sorry for those who have to do this full time. I once did it full time as well. Between jobs, I drove for full time, and that's what I came to the conclusion that if you're driving for base fare, you're losing money. Particularly if you do what they ask you to do, which is 90-some-odd% acceptance rate, and you take a bunch of bad trips where in some cases you're driving 5, 10 miles or even greater to pick people up, and that person's going 2 or 3 miles. And it doesn't matter what market you're in, you're going to get trips like that, where after doing that trip, this wasn't even profitable for me. I drove 8 miles to pick up a person, and that person traveled 3 miles. Or I drove and picked up somebody that wanted to go 20 miles outside of my normal area, and there's nobody going to request a trip out here. So now I got to drive 20 miles back to where I was in hopes of getting the next trip. There are plenty of trips like that. That is why I say do not drive for base fare. If you're getting paid enough per trip, you can handle bullshit like that. If you're getting an average of at least, I'd say you want to get at least $10 per trip. If you're getting at least $10 per trip, now you're in a position where you can handle driving 15 miles outside of your area and having to drive 15 miles back occasionally with no one in the vehicle, or driving 8 miles to pick up someone that's only going 3 miles. You can handle stuff like that occasionally. But when you're making $3, $4, $5, $6 all day long on every damn trip consistently, and you're literally desperate for tips just to make this work, you can't handle that. So the incentives in my market, and you can let me know in the comments how you see things maybe differently. In my market, occasionally they offer streak bonuses, which are, if you do 3 trips in a row, we'll give you an extra $15. Now that means they're offering $5 on top of whatever you did for that trip. Like I said, my market, trips pay between $4, $5, or $6. But if they tack on $5 more to it, now they're pretty much assuring that all of my trips pay at least $10. That's what I told you should be pursuing, particularly in this high-priced gas market. $10 per trip. If you're getting paid like that, then you're doing much better. $3, $4, $5, it ain't worth the time. Now, currently in my market, right now, they're offering a streak bonus. I believe it's 3 trips, and they'll give you $9. Now, for yours truly, I still do not believe that's worth it. 3 trips for $9, that means they're adding an additional $3 on per trip. But I do realize I drive a hard bargain. I want to get paid and be profitable for someone like myself. There are plenty of folks who may believe that adding $3 on per trip is worthwhile. So I'm not totally against $3 per trip, but for me, comfortably, I believe it should be $5. But if they offer a streak bonus, 3 trips for an extra $9 and you jump to that, it's not the worst thing you could do. But what I just showed you now, doing 16 trips and only getting $16, that's ridiculous. Because if you do 16 trips and they only add 16, that is $1 per trip. Lyft and Uber's base pay is far lower than what $1 could solve. 72 cents a mile in my market, it probably should be closer to about $1.50 per mile. Taxis charge $2.60. That's the difference. 72 cents a mile in my market to the driver. Taxis are charging $2.60. So you're talking well over 3 times the rate the taxis are charging versus what the drivers in my market are getting. And obviously, as you know, being a rideshare driver, 100% of the expenses for hauling people around are on you. At 72 cents a mile, it's not worth it. The damn IRS, I believe, and I'm no tax professional, but I believe the damn IRS gives you about 53 cents or more per mile that even they are assuming it costs you to drive a vehicle. So if the IRS, who tends to want money and not be liberal, not be kind with your expenses, if they can see it costing you at least 53 cents to haul people around, that means you're doing it even by the IRS standards. You're only making profit-wise 20-something cents per mile. 20 cents per mile. You realize how many miles you got to drive for that to be worth something? 20 cents a mile. And that's taking away the IRS suggesting that it costs you 53 cents per mile in expenses when you're using your vehicle. Maybe you can drive for less than that. I don't know. I'm not here to argue that. Maybe it costs you more. But the IRS is estimating 53 cents a mile. And most Uber and Lyft markets pay well under $1. There's a few plus or minuses. I believe if you're in a really huge market like Los Angeles or San Francisco, they pay a little bit more. But then again, look at the cost of living in Los Angeles and San Francisco. But if you're driving out in the middle of Columbia, South Carolina, or some Syracuse, New York, somewhere like that, they're not paying like that, and you're not getting surges and things like that either. So, like I said, avoid driving for base fare. We'll talk about it in the next video. Let me know in your market, what are they offering in your market? And we're not talking surges. We're not talking tips. We're talking what are the rideshare companies themselves offering you as a driver in your market. As a driver, you shouldn't be desperate for the damn passengers to hit you up with tips. It is the business itself that should pay you properly as a driver. So we want to talk about what is the ride-sharing companies in your market offering you. I don't want to hear about grandma got in your car, you took some groceries to her doorstep and she gave you $30. That shit's not dependable and it's not normal. I'm talking about what are you making from the company themselves? What are they offering any streak bonuses in your area? If so, what? Now, real quick before I let you guys go, and by the way, subscribe to the channel. This is kind of what we talk about on this channel. One of the things we talk about, which are ride sharing pitfalls and all of this other stuff. And I'm not saying do not ride share. I'm just saying make sure it's profitable when you do it. But as I stated in the previous video, they offered me $225 guaranteed if I did 16 trips. That was fantastic. And by the way, that's the last time I drove when I made that video. $225, this is a few weeks ago, for 16 trips. Now, if you do 16 trips, 225 divided by 16, that means you're averaging $14.06 per trip. And I just told you in my market, the average trip being 5 miles or so is paying $4 and something. So now you're guaranteeing that I'll average $14 a trip. That's $10 on top of what I earned. I jumped all over that, and I did it twice in 1 week, which is a total of 32 trips. I would have done it as many times as they offered it because those trips were really profitable. After completing that, they dropped it back down to stuff like this bullshit I'm showing you in this video. So let me know what's in your market, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Appreciate you watching.